Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I've got an Oblivion Remastered guide. Oh hey, the Oblivion remake is real, and it's out! Time for a whole new generation to experience the magic and jank of this defining Bethesda RPG. But something newcomers should know. Oblivion was made to be broken. Broken spells, broken builds, weird janky stuff, all that. I love it. So here's a quick rundown of what I always do when I start a new Oblivion game. From getting OP armor and weapons, power leveling a skill, and maybe even an item dupe trick. So enough jabber, let's get into it. Here's how to have a crazy good start in Oblivion for newcomers and oldcomers alike. I'm not going to cover character building too much, because one of the cool things about Oblivion Remaster is the tweaks to the leveling system means the Build-A-Bear style of class building is even more effective this time around, but I'll give you a minor recommendation. When you start, I like the Thief sign, because luck is basically a make everything slightly better stat, and when leveling costs 4 points instead of the usual 1, so getting 10 right off the bat is pretty neat. The same philosophy goes for core skills in my class. I usually go Endurance and Luck, since having health is important, and again, I just like luck. When it comes to your major skills, just pick whichever one you want to play. It really doesn't matter, and if you change your mind, you can still do fine using minor abilities. An abnormal one I do usually suggest is acrobatics, not athletics, as being able to jump really high and fall really far allows for some fun sequence breaking and jank. Once you start leveling, my personal go-to is jumping points in endurance and speed, with the third being whatever is my primary damage dealer, usually strength for the extra carrying capacity. Endurance is important as health keeps you alive, but people may raise an eyebrow at speed. Here's the thing, speed lets you go nuts so fast just walking around, and if you learn spells or make potions to empower it, you can basically turn into Sonic the Hedgehog blasting around the map. It also just makes the game funner on a minute-to-minute basis because, you move faster. Anyway, that's some unsolicited stat advice. The moral of the story is do whatever you want. Unlike vanilla Oblivion, you really can't screw it up this time around. Now on to the breaking. So in Oblivion, you have a whole assortment of skills that rank up as you use them, but did you know that you can max one of them during the tutorial? As you enter the third-ish zone after leaving the Emperor, the game will toss a sneak tutorial at you with one oblivious goblin. Once he does his little walking path, he will stand with his back to you forever. So if you sneak and just walk directly into the wall behind him, you don't even have to look like you're moving, you will gradually gain sneak XP. If you're on PC, you can turn on auto run and just go make a snack or something. On console, you have to be a little more creative. I wired a USB cable around the stick to pull it up and then wrap that cable on the controller so I could go do something else. The controller did turn off every once in a while though. Well, now that I've told you about this, I do have a few caveats. First off, if you actually want to hit 100, which is the max, it takes a bit over 5 hours. Yes, I wasted an afternoon doing this, and I honestly don't recommend it. While the new leveling system helps a lot in making it so you can't fall far behind, you'll basically end up starting the game at like level 12, and enemies will scale accordingly, which kind of sucks. My personal suggestion is to get it to at most 25 because that gives the first big perk and then just play the game normally. And as another unsolicited piece of advice, I highly recommend saving before you leave the sewers at the end of the tutorial since you can respec everything at the end, and then if you want to make a new character, you don't have to do the whole intro every time. Once you pop out of the tutorial, you'll want to explore, but why not go get some incredible armor and a sword to start us off? If you head to here on the map, south of the Imperial City, you'll find a cavern called Vindasil. Avoid the traps, rats, and crabs, and eventually you'll open a dwarf door and find a room with a lone warrior named Umbra. She has the Umbra armor and sword, and she's technically part of a quest later in the game where you're supposed to kill her. But, why not kill her now and get her stuff? There are a few ways to go about this. First way is dropping the difficulty and spamming fire magic if you happen to have some destruction spells. If you keep running backwards and kiting so she can't hit you, I found she's actually not too difficult to take out with enough magic casts. But if you're struggling to take her out on your own, another option is just leading her all the way west and north into the Imperial City. Once there, the guards will tell her to stop because she violated the law. She will ignore them, and a big old brawl will ensue. It'll take the guards a little while, but eventually they will kill her. And when they do, feel free to grab her sword and armor. The armor is slightly worse than normal ebony armor, I'll explain why in a second, and the sword's an ebony longsword with the ability to snag souls for soul gems. And yes, you can get this at the very start of the game. A few notes on it, however. First off, if you kill her before you are level 15, the armor and weapon are technically not quite as good as ebony armor, where after level 15 they are identical. Personally, I don't think it's worth waiting because of how enemies scale, which means this armor is much more useful at the start. Plus at level 15 you'll probably be going for Daedric armor or something. Second, you actually might not want to use the sword as much as you'd think early on. You gain blade XP per sword swing, so if you kill stuff in like 2 hits, you get a lot less XP. Just saying. Well, we got that, but maybe we should also get a super great magic hat. Why not? Warp to Anvil, which is the town on the western side of the map, and head further west towards the big island you can see. Once you're perched atop it, point yourself west and then about 1 tick on the compass south for the northern part of the island. Also, you should probably quick save here. Dive down into the water and head down and forward. If you did it right, you'll see a big rock ahead of you, and to the right of it is a skeleton with a green hat. Once you grab that green hat, unless you're Argonian, you best put it on right away or you're gonna drown. This hat, the Fin Gleam, grants water breathing, night eye, and detect life, all on a glass helmet, and all of which are great enchantments. That being said, because of how it distorts the screen, I actually don't recommend wearing it all of the time, but having it on hand if you need to see in the dark or do some swimming is super useful. Alrighty, we got all sorts of cool stuff and are ready to go. But we know you're actually here for glitches, right? Well, at the time of this video, there's a dupe bug in the game. So let's go over it quickly because it's super easy and hopefully they don't patch it out. If you want to dupe something, you'll need an empty container, and it has to be one that doesn't count as stealing, so no containers with red text. You also need one of the item you want to dupe, and a big stack of something else. This is usually arrows because I have a ton of them. You're going to want to open the detailed view of the container with R3, then move the single item into the crate. It must be the only thing in that crate. Once it's there and selected, move back to your inventory and cursor over the item with the big stack. Now this is the tricky part. You're going to need to hit X or A, and then R1 or RB very quickly. Essentially, you want to select your big stack item, but before the modal pops up, move the highlight from your inventory to the container. You'll know if you did it right because when the modal pops up asking how many you want to move, if the right side container is highlighted instead of your inventory, you're good to go. Once you see that, you will press confirm, either X or A, twice in quick succession. This will grab the item from the storage container and give you the number of it equal to the number of the stack you picked. As you can imagine, this lets you get rich pretty quick. Duping soul gems early can be sold for some quick cash, and you can technically also do this on gold you find in crates or on bodies, though you can't put your gold directly in containers for infinite wealth. Duping and selling will knock your mercantile skill up pretty quick. You can also dupe more useful things just out in the field, like repair hammers to keep that Umbra set new and raise your armor skill, or lockpicks so you don't ever run out until you get the skeleton key, or whatever else. From what I found, you can't dupe gear like weapons or armor with it, but everything else is fair game. And that's my quick start guide for some janky OP start to Oblivion. I personally love Oblivion. It's that great hybrid of Morrowind jank and Skyrim polish that just hits different, and also the Dark Brotherhood questline is probably the best questline in the whole franchise. Let me know if these tips helped you, and be sure to check out my Fallout 3 beginner's guide on how to get OP fast, along with the hundreds of short reviews on the channel of pretty much any game I've decided to play over the past 4 years. And just so you know, every time you leave a like, my personality stat goes ever so slightly higher. Probably. I need to test that. Regardless, go out there and have fun with Oblivion.